So what's newsworthy?
The governor's offer and where you are on transportation.
Well, I haven't had a chance to circle back with the speaker yet about this morning's meeting. I did talk with Senator Han about it because my perception of where the caucus is we're probably going to need, if one of those two proposals were to develop that the governor made today, it appears to me we'll need some Republican votes in the Senate to be able to pass them. The license tab number the governor's proposals is a little higher than the Senate so far has been willing to go, and the governor broached the general fund idea, something that the Senate has not considered. So we prefer the alternative that has the 5-cent gas tax. We think the 5-cent gas tax is probably too low, that it should be higher than that, and we then would take down the general fund and the license tab money numbers down some and emphasize more on the gas tax. But I tell you what I do really appreciate is that the governor has put a proposal forward that addresses what everybody agrees is the need, $600 million a year, each year for the next 10 years. We also would like to do that. We really in the Senate don't have any plans to come off of that number. 600 million is the need, so why not get it done? These transportation issues are very, very hard. When they finally get to a point of being a crisis, the legislature finally deals with them. It was 20 years between the last gas tax increases, and we're I think at a pivotal point where the public is willing to consider transportation again as a priority. I think if we tried to do some kind of a half-baked proposal that doesn't address what we think is the need, I think the public will feel like we have satisfied the problem when all of us, when we leave here, will realize we have not. And so the opportunity doesn't come along very often to address this. I would like to fix what we all agree is the problem.
But the speaker says no new gas tax. If he sticks to that, is there a way out of this?
I guess I would like to know if the speaker has decided the governor's proposal that includes a gas tax doesn't work, how he feels about $400 million in a license tab increase. I think that's a pretty hard sell. Very, very hard sell in the Senate. It would take a lot of Republican votes, I think, to do that. The proposal, his offer with the gas tax is closer to where the DFL Senate could, I think, be successful.
Taking $200 million out of the general fund due to the rest of the Senate's priorities with regard to spending?
Well, it makes the opportunity to get a tax bill more difficult. The tax bill is the other bill that has significant tails in it. I think it remains very, very difficult to be able to get a transportation bill and a tax bill if they both need general fund money.
Pull back a little bit from today's proposals. Are you going to get a transportation bill done this year?
Well, I think that's entirely up to the House at this point. Senate offered a bill last week. House hasn't really offered a meaningful offer. That's pulled back even slightly. So governor's now made an offer that shows significant movement and willingness to compromise. The House has yet to indicate any willingness to compromise. So it's entirely up to the House. What does Kurt Doubt want? What do his House members want? So yeah, I think we can, if the House is in a posture to compromise.
You've been negotiating with Kelly for months. You've been negotiating with Doubt for months. Do you feel like they've got the willingness? Because they're saying it's the Democrats.
Well, Democrats have demonstrated a willingness to compromise. House hasn't.
Are you folks going to do a counteroffer to the governor's offer?
We're waiting for the House to make an offer.
Why?
Because
they haven't made an offer yet.
Because we're not going to negotiate against our own proposal. I mean, the Senate made the last proposal to the House. It was 12 cents in the gas tax. The House rebundled their current bill and called it a counteroffer. We rejected that and said we don't consider that an offer. Make a real proposal with real movement. And once we receive that, we'll consider an additional counteroffer.
Do you agree that transportation is the key now, or can you go ahead and do other targets?
Well, I think the governor indicated this morning in the meeting with all of the leaders that the $500 million of general fund that he is in his offer over the next 3 years, that if we could not accomplish a transportation bill that included that, that we not spend it on something else. I think that's kind of the first thing, and I agree with the governor on that. That's the first thing that I think we need to come to an agreement with the speaker on, is if we cannot get a transportation bill, the governor's request is that we not spend it on other things, and I agree with the governor on that. If we can get the speaker to agree to that, then I think we could probably start having a conversation with the speaker and I and the governor about what the other targets look like. If we could, kind of, I think the right word is probably park the money off on the side and continue to work on a transportation bill. And with the other unallocated surplus money, start to work with the other conference committees.
In terms of setting targets, is there any movement that we're not seeing on that front? Doubt said today he wanted it done by Tuesday evening.
Well, I hope to be able to talk with him a little bit later tonight. And I have told the governor I'm going to include him in those conversations about how much. There really are only 3 targets. There's a target for the bonding bill. How much cash are we going to spend in the bonding bill, including the debt service on it? And then, what are we going to spend in the tax bill and the budget bill? We're only talking about establishing targets for 3 bills, and only 2 of them have ongoing tails. So I don't think it's not a real big task. It's unlike a budget year where you've got 8 budget divisions you've got to try and figure out. So I don't think it would take very long if we could just agree to put transportation off on the side.
And we keep hearing various deadlines that are made and broken, which is part of this process. What's the real deadline for getting this done this year, given that it's a relatively minor lift?
Sunday, May 22nd. Midnight. Not 7 in the morning, midnight.
So you could keep negotiating until 11 and make the revisor print out a whole bunch of copies and
No,
get it done?
I don't believe it will take that long. The revisor's office have told us that if we came to an agreement and sent all the bills at the same time, that they'd need 4 days to get them all enrolled and ready for votes on the floor. So they've asked that we start to meter out some of the work to the revisor's office, and we then could compress that timeline of 4 days if they could get started working on some of it now. So if we could get a tax bill resolved or a bonding bill resolved, or if Senator Cohen and Knobloch could start to send out some of the articles, the division articles out of the budget bill, and get the revisor working on some of those things, and they want to work on them an article at a time. So I would hope that by Wednesday or Thursday, some of that work would start going to the revisor. Otherwise, we're going to have a pretty difficult conclusion just mechanically. So some of the decisions need to start coming together.
You said you talked to Senator Han about transportation. Do you realistically think you'd get Republican votes for something like one of the governor's proposals?
Well, I think if the speaker decided that one of those 2 proposals that the governor made today was something he was going to pass, I just would indicate to me there's Republican support for it. So I would think if the speaker's willing to do that, Senator Han would have some votes for that. I don't think the Democrats or the Republicans in the House and the Republicans in the Senate are that much different. So I'm assuming if it's something the speaker agrees to, Senator Han's willing to help. I've actually asked him to check with his caucus about how many votes that he would have for either one of the governor's proposals. I don't have an answer back yet.
Senator Dibble, would you vote for either one of the governor's proposals?
I've always shown a willingness to look at some of the general fund for this purpose, but I think the gas tax makes a ton of sense. So I think some variation on offer number 1 is agreeable to me. But we're part of a large, diverse caucus, and those priorities in the general fund are pretty important. This is long-term care, this is education, this is local government aid, this is public safety, and I understand the strength of feeling that my caucus members have around this.
Thank you.
Can we call it a fee? Thanks, everybody.
All right, thanks.